In the shadowed heart of the Ironfang Kingdom, where silver moons bled crimson during the winter solstice and the rivers ran black with the ashes of old wars, there ruled an Alpha King Valerius Blackthorn. He was not a kind king. He was not a gentle king. He was the storm-given claws and crown, the wolf who had torn out the throats of 3 rival alphas before his 20th year and burned their banners in the courtyard of his fortress so the smoke would remind every pack who owned the sky. They called him the Ash-Crowned. They whispered that his heart had frozen the day his mother and little sister were slaughtered by the Snowfang clan, and that nothing, not power, not blood, not omegas perfumed like spring itself, could thaw it again. No one had ever seen him smile, until the night of the claiming auction. It was tradition, ancient and ugly. The unwanted, the broken, the scarred omegas of fallen packs were paraded in iron collars before the nobility, sold to the highest bidder like livestock. Most buyers wanted pretty things to warm their beds and swell with pups. No one wanted the ones with marred skin. They dragged her out last. Lyric, 19 winters. Once the cherished daughter of the Riverthorn pack. Now nothing. Her pack had been raised 2 years ago by Valerius himself in a border war. She had hidden in the root cellars while her family burned. A collapsing beam had kissed fire across the left side of her face, down her neck, over her shoulder and breast, twisting once delicate skin into a map of pain. The right side of her face remained heartbreakingly beautiful, storm-gray eyes, soft mouth, moonlight hair. But the left was a ruin of scar tissue that pulled her eyelid and lip into a perpetual flinch. When the auctioneer ripped her ragged cloak away, the crowd recoiled. "Half-faced bitch," someone spat. "Even a blind alpha wouldn't mount that. Throw her to the rogues. Let them finish what the fire started." Lyric did not cry. She had used up tears long ago. She only stared straight ahead, chin high, as if the jeers were wind. The iron collar had rubbed her throat raw. Her wrists were bound with silver-threaded rope that kept her wolf buried deep. She smelled of fear anyway. Valerius sat on the obsidian throne above the pit, one booted foot resting on the back of a kneeling enemy alpha. He had attended these auctions only to collect debts or humiliate rivals. Tonight, he had come to drink and forget the council's nagging about heirs. Then he scented her. Under the ash and blood and despair, something ancient stirred inside his chest. A single note of winter jasmine after snow. His wolf lunged against his rib so violently he nearly shifted on the throne. "Mine." The word cracked through his skull like lightning. He rose slowly. The hall fell silent. Even the auctioneer faltered. "Name your price," Valerius said, voice low, lethal. The auctioneer stammered. "She's flawed, my king. Barely worth—" "I said." Valerius stepped down the stairs, each bootfall echoing like a war drum. "Name your price before I take her tongue and wear it as a trophy." 10,000 gold." Valerius flicked 2 fingers. His steward tossed a pouch that burst open on the stage, spilling rubies the size of raven hearts. The auctioneer fell to his knees, babbling thanks. Lyric finally looked at the Alpha King. Her good eye widened. She had expected some fat lordling with damp hands. Not him. Not the monster who had burned her pack to cinders. He stopped an arm's length away. Up close, he was taller than the nightmares painted him, black hair falling like spilled ink over a face carved from midnight and murder. Golden eyes pinned her in place. "You hate me," he said quietly, not a question. "Yes," she whispered, the word raw. "Good," he murmured. "Hold on to it." He reached for the iron collar. The moment his fingers brushed the metal, it melted, dripping to the floor in molten silver. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Only the oldest elders had ever seen power like that. Lyric's knees buckled as her wolf surged back into her skin. but Valerius caught her before she fell. His touch burned hotter than the collar ever had. He wrapped his own cloak, black wolf fur lined with crimson silk, around her naked, scarred body, and lifted her against his chest as if she weighed nothing. Then he turned to the hall of nobles and smiled for the first time in 15 years. It was not a nice smile. "Let it be known," he said, voice carrying to every corner, "this Omega is mine. Anyone who looks at her too long will lose their eyes. Anyone who speaks ill of her will lose their tongue. Anyone who touches her will lose their life, their pack, and their soul. I will burn the world for her if I must." He walked out carrying her, leaving the scent of ozone and impending war behind. That night, in the highest tower of Blackthorn Keep, Lyric waited for the claiming bite she was certain would break her mind. Instead, Valerius set her gently on a chaise by the fire and kneeled, the Alpha King of the Ironfang Kingdom on his knees before a broken Omega. "I will never touch you without your word," he said, voice rough, "but I will kill anyone who tries to take you from me. I will tear down every kingdom that ever harmed you. I will give you every star in the sky if you ask it." Lyric stared. Why? He didn't answer with words. He reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and brushed a thumb over the worst of her scars. Where his skin met hers, warmth bloomed, the twisted flesh unknotted, smoothing like water over stone. The pain that had lived in her face for 2 years ebbed, not all at once. Healing magic that strong would kill the caster, but enough that she could close her left eye without agony for the first time since the fire. Tears finally came then, silent and hot. "I don't understand," she choked. Valerius pressed his forehead to her knee, trembling with the effort of holding his wolf back. "You are the only thing that has felt like salvation since I was 12 years old and held my mother's body while she bled out. I don't care if you never love me. I don't care if you hate me until the sun dies. I will spend the rest of my life making the world pay for every tear you've ever shed." Over the months that followed, the kingdom learned what it meant to have an Omega the ash-crowned would burn the world for. When Lord Cassian mocked her over dinner, calling her the king's charity case, Valerius dragged him into the courtyard by his throat and burned him alive in front of the court, slow enough for screams to echo off the mountains. When the Snowfang clan sent assassins to retrieve their property, Valerius met them on the border with a single torch and left an ocean of ash where their army had stood. When healers said her deepest scars could never fully fade, Valerius spent nights bleeding his own power into her skin until he collapsed, until silver streaked his black hair and the court begged him to stop before he killed himself. And Lyric? At first she flinched from every touch, slept with a dagger under her pillow, waited for the monster to emerge. It never did. Instead, she woke to find him curled on the floor beside her bed, like a wolf guarding a pup. Found gardens planted with winter jasmine climbing the tower walls. Found the library filled with books in her native Riverthorn dialect. Found the portraits of his mother and sister hung beside a new one, of her, painted with both sides of her face, scars and all, titled, "My Queen." One storm-ravaged night, 8 months after the auction, she found him on the balcony shaking with nightmares. She wrapped her arms around him from behind and whispered, "I'm here." He turned, eyes wild, and she kissed him before he could beg. The claiming bite came that night, consensual and fierce, under a moon the color of fresh blood. When his teeth sank into the crook of her neck, her scars blazed gold for a heartbeat, then settled into faint silver lines that looked like lightning frozen mid-strike. The next morning, the kingdom woke to find winter jasmine blooming through snow, impossible and fragrant, covering every parapet of Blackthorn Keep. Years later, when their daughter, black-haired, gray-eyed, with a single silver scar shaped like a crescent moon on her cheek, asked why Papa's throne had claw marks across the armrests, Lyric smiled and answered, "Because your father once promised to burn the world for me, and he still would. But I asked him to build one with me instead." And in the highest tower, the Alpha King, who had once been only ash and grief, looked at his mate, his miracle, his salvation, and whispered against her lips the words he said every single night. "I would burn the world for you, little star, gladly, but you taught me how to keep it warm instead." And he kissed the scars he had healed but never erased, because they were proof she had survived everything the world threw at her, proof she was stronger than fire, proof she was his, forever.